Hey guys, how y'all doing? So recently, early this week, I had a birthday, July 22nd. I am officially 32 years old and so blessed. I'm so happy to be here, guys. Thank you to all my new subscribers and showing me love. I really appreciate y'all so much. But unfortunately, before I got to really enjoy my birthday, I heard the tragic news of Malcolm-Jamal Warner passing. I know a lot of people remember him from The Cosby Show. I personally remember him from Malcolm and Eddie because I'm a 90s baby, and that's what I used to watch late at night. Sometimes after the Apollo, they would play that, and I just have very fond memories of Eddie Griffin and Malcolm-Jamal Warner and watching these shows and laughing and spending time with my cousins or my dad. When he was there, we just like comedy together. So that's a very special part of my childhood. So yes, I am currently binge watching Malcolm and Eddie. It's on Tubi, but it's also on Pluto TV. I've also seen as well. If you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead and binge watch when you get a chance. It brings up a lot of nostalgic memories for me. So Malcolm-Jamal Warner just recently passed July 20th, and honestly, it has hit me different than I expected it to. But when you think about who he was, not just Theo on TV, but who he chose to be behind the scenes, it definitely puts life into perspective. I love personally how private he was in his life and how private he was about his wife and his children. I think we live in a society now where people are like, if people are hiding you, that's a problem. If you're hiding your spouse, it's the difference between purposely hiding and protecting the privacy of your family. I also relate this to Beyonce not showing her son for whatever reason, and people getting mad. It was like, oh, you're showing your daughters. You show your daughters. Why you want to show your son? And it's their right as parent. It's their right. At one point in time, although I'm an advocate for my daughter being autistic and special needs, as I reflected back and sat back, I said, 20 years from now, is my daughter going to want me to show her face on social media? Is she going to be a private person? Or is she going to be a kid like, yeah, mom, I didn't care about that. But for whatever reason right now, I need to pull back and respect her. I can still be an advocate for her faceless and talk about her struggles and what she's won and what she's had victory in without taking that from her and then allowing her to have that choice. And then we come back to that. We can reflect on that or do something together. But it's one of those things where you want to respect that person's privacy. So that is the biggest thing that stuck out to me personally, is that a lot of people didn't know he was married. A lot of people didn't even know he had an 8-year-old little girl. And I really believe that he did that out of protection, because when you're coming up so young as a breakout star at only 14 years old, you are watching everything happen, the good and the bad. He was essentially a child actor, and we know how a lot of child actors, not even African American back then, had the world at their feet, could get into clubs, bars at an early age, turn to, drugs and other things to cope with the society of Hollywood and staying relevant, and watching the different cups energy. If you know that 7 cups energy of picking and choosing which thing is the right thing. And just to know that he made it to 54, navigating through Hollywood with a clean slate, whether you like him or not. Like, my mother always told me she didn't have a good experience because she saw him in the airport and he didn't talk to her. And I'm sure that probably is her experience, but from my experience, I go off my experience. I always thought that he was really cool, really calm, and a great pillar in the African American community, especially how he stayed true to himself, doing his own music, poetry. A lot of people don't know that he also shares a Grammy with Stevie Wonder, and TMZ was interviewing Stevie Wonder and asking him how he felt about Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing, and he said it was extremely heartbreaking for him, as I would imagine, because he watched this young man grow up from a child to a man. And when you have that many legendary people that you meet at an early age have an impact on your life, it definitely does leave an impact on what you want to leave to not only your child, but the children around you, the legacy. I didn't even know that he did a Virginia State University commercial. He's just done so many things, and it just touched my heart to see how he was still, one of the members, Tommy from Full Force, was saying how he still was inviting him out to listen to his music and wishing him happy birthday. And it just really just shows his character behind the scenes versus a big banner across the news saying we lost a legend. Those are the things I really like to see about the people that we get to see in the celebrity spotlight. And it's just so nice to talk about somebody positive that had a positive impact. And that is somebody I can reflect to my children, even though that they were gone at such an early age, they held true to who they were in an environment that is so easy to get lost in. I love that quiet dignity about him. And I do think it is important now more than ever to give people their flowers before they're gone. I really do. I love that. I love that not only I learned that he did spoken word, but he was a director. All these things I didn't know because they weren't that prominent in our faces mainstream. But I'm glad to learn about why he was able to do those things that he loved and remain true to himself. He didn't have to sell his soul out to stay relevant. And an era where we see so many people fighting to do that and fighting for clout, he never had to do that. This also made me reflect on my own personal life and my father, as my birthday has just passed, and the peace that I feel from reconciling with my father. It has been one of those things because he wasn't as consistent as I needed for him to be growing up. And because I went through something traumatic growing up, I felt like if my father was there to catch on and was more consistent to catch on to those things, he would have been able to catch it and to be able to reconcile with my father while he's still here, and to explain to him where my resentment laid, not only as a child, but now being a full-fledged mother and seeing my children and being protective over my children and getting those feelings of, I didn't get to say this, or I didn't realize this until I became a mother, and being able to sit down and tell him as a woman to a man, like, this is what I felt. And I'm not asking you to fix it, but I just want you to acknowledge that before we move forward in your phase as a grandfather. And it, easing my fears of, can you protect your grandchildren? If you didn't protect me, can you catch these things? Can you be consistent? And surprisingly to me, he was very receptive. And I can't help but wonder that he was receptive for this energy because he also just recently lost a key prominent father figure in his life, his stepfather. And that was really triggering for him. He lost him earlier in the spring, and I think it made him reflect on what kind of father he wanted to be and what legacy he wanted to leave behind as a father. And although his stepfather was kind of in and out and had his things going on, he did remain a key father figure in his life. He is remembered fondly. I even remember him fondly as a child, teaching me how to play the electric guitar as a little girl. And it was one of those things, a conversation that me and my father had. And he's like, yeah, I have that electric guitar. So now it's an heirloom, So who's to say, when he transitions, I get to hold on to the electric guitar. It's just one of those things that you never know unless you reach out and reconcile. But to know that that person was ready to reconcile, it's one thing to reconcile with somebody, but to know that they're ready to make changes during that reconcile is all the more better. I always say actions is the best form. Change behavior is the best form of an apology, through action, to me. And it was just nice to see that. And through being able to share my pain with my father, not to place blame, but to explain to him where I was coming from, he also was able to explain to me that he also went through that and he couldn't find the words to say that. And that was triggering for him now, knowing that he went through that similarly in his childhood with his mother, my grandmother, and couldn't be there to protect her because he was so young. She went through something traumatizing, and then to see that his children went through something traumatizing with a woman that he trusted, and she was able to put the wool over his eyes for so long, and him believing that we were safe and okay when it was the very opposite. I think that triggered him, and him to be able to be vulnerable and be honest about that was very healing. And I'm not saying this to like throw it in people's faces and say you should go talk to people and reconcile people. Everybody is on their own path. But I will say, because I was able to do that and recognize my father, my other siblings in turn followed me and was like, okay, if she did this, I can extend this olive branch, not just for me and not just only thinking about me anymore, but for my child, what I want. They deserve this. And that's what it really boiled down to me for, was my children deserve this. They deserve to have a grandfather. And if these don't work out, I can say I did my best to give this opportunity to my children. It's the question of the legacy I want to leave behind. Another thing that we reconciled and talked about and was healing for me that I needed to hear from my father was that my grandmother, also my aunt, is special needs. She's autistic, and how she wasn't able to have the technology and the tools and the things that were readily available from her at the time, me at the time now, for her back then in the 70s, 80s, so forth, until the 90s, where she passed away tragically when my father was a teenager. And it really hit home. And I wasn't expecting my father to acknowledge that strength, that pain, and the resilience that it takes for me being the only active parent with my special needs daughter. And although I have my spouse and we have a blended family, I appreciated him acknowledging that and recognizing. He was telling me that he recognized as a child that, her spouses with her child that was special needs left because he couldn't take it. And that's a real thing. It happens. And I really believe that's one of the reasons why her father is not there, my daughter's father, is because he just couldn't take it. And I respect it. I respect that, because I'd rather you be honest and be real with yourself than to lie and traumatize our child. You need to learn on your own. You need to figure this out. But I'm never going to stop fighting for our child. And it, to be validated by my father, to see that and to see that strength, it made me feel good. It made me feel like despite my childhood and whatever happened, I am doing something different. And this parent is proud of me. I didn't have to ask for it. I didn't have to beg it. It came to me naturally. And that's what I want people to take away when I reflect on all these events happening around my birthday. I always say nothing is a coincidence. Everything is a point of view, a different perspective. How will you look at people that have transgressed you? How will you learn to forgive them? What steps will you take? What are you doing it for? Are you doing it for other people? Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for the legacy that you want to leave behind? What are you doing that for? And for me, that's what it was for. It's for me, but it's also for my children. It's a gift for my children. Some of the best gifts in life are not tangible things. It's healing that bloodline, breaking that chain. To hear my father say that I broke a chain in the family, I broke a cycle in the family, is the most rewarding thing I could have ever heard in my life. But I think Black men deserve to grow old. And at a time where I was hearing my biological mother say, I'm not a grandma, call me grandma, and I'm not a grandma. And she's very well in her 50s, and my dad is only a year older than her. And the opposite is my father saying, I love getting gray hair. Yeah, I'm missing a tooth. I'm getting a little old. I lost a little hair. I'm getting bald. But I love getting old. I love that I'm getting to wear glasses, because the lifestyle that I was living back then in the 90s and the 80s, I never thought I was going to make it to this. I saw so much going on around me. I lost so many people. I never thought I'd be here. So I'm going to accept getting old as a Black man. And that really put my life into perspective, because I've lost so many people who really should be here. And I was reflecting that, as if the audience doesn't know, I'm also a twin. My twin lives on the West Coast. That a lot of people don't grow old with their twins. And my twin is still here, although he's not, I can drive down the street and go see him. He is still here. We are still able to communicate. We still have that bond. And I'm just so grateful for the little things, and to hear my father say as a Black man that he is just happy to age, because he was living that lifestyle back then in the streets where he didn't even know if he was going to make it today or tomorrow. And now he is 30 years later watching his grandchildren. It's a beautiful feeling. So who's to say he'll be able to be here still and see his great grandchildren? It's a beautiful feeling. And it really made me recognize that I deserve my children to have that opportunity to grow old, because I did get to grow with my grandparents and my great grandmother until they transitioned on. And it was a very key, prominent thing in my life. And when I lost them, I lost that foundation of protection. I did. And I'm really glad that I got to have that time. That's why I love that my son gets to spend time with his grandmother. And he's such a grandma's boy. I love it because I was a grandma's kid. So I love it. But it just really echoes. One thing I learned about his final moments with Malcolm-Jamal Warner is that he spent his time with his family. He wasn't trying to be all up in people's faces and all over social media. He was appreciating the little things in life. He was spending time with his family. And that's really what it's all about, honestly. When the money and all of those things fade, it's really about all of that. I just love that. And I love that he just kept staying relevant. He was on the show. I didn't even know the resident. He was doing so many things I didn't even know, but you can best believe I'm going to be checking out his work now, because sometimes life be life and people be like, you didn't know that. You didn't know that. Girl, we all got the same 24 hours in a day, but sometimes we doing stuff. You know what I mean? So I love that people were like, hey, he was also on this show. You guys should go check it out. It was really good. It's one of the last few things that he did before he transitions. And I really loved that. I just wanted to tell y'all, this video isn't just about Malcolm. It's about us and appreciating our people while they're still here, whether it's a father, a mentor, or a cultural icon. We've got to stop waiting until it's too late. Okay? And I encourage you, if you're an person in the audience listening to this, to please reach out to someone or reflect on your own healing and drop a comment sharing who you're going to give your flowers to today. And it doesn't have to be a celebrity. For example, if you listened all the way, I've given my flowers to my father. My father gave me my flowers back while I'm still here to receive them. And that meant everything to me. It didn't take for me to be on my, transition bed. I have to watch my words for you to hear those words. I was able to hear those words, and that brought me a sense of healing, balm, and peace and relief. And I just want to know what you guys are thinking. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.